I was just sitting by my good friend Marianne there, and she said, I've signed up for this, Sue, because you told me ages ago that this was a turning point for you attending Nick's seminar on somatic cognitive coaching. And indeed it was. In 2007, I was sort of on a journey of helping my head meet my body, and realized that that needed to happen in my coaching as well. And so attended Nick's session at the same time as doing the advanced diploma, and it became an integral part of how I coach. And as you know, these things happen for a reason, so loads of the people I end up coaching somehow get a realization that they're cut off at the neck, and somehow we start to use somatic work. So I'm sure we're going to all discover some wonderful techniques today, and thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Do you want this?
No, thank you. No. Right, well, morning, guys. Good to see you again. Is this working? Is the sound coming through? I loved being a follower. This whole idea of being a leader again. Wasn't it lovely being a follower for those who lead? I actually had a sort of, as I came into this place, it reminded me of an old nightclub in Derby that I used to frequent. Derby, yeah, Romeos and Juliets, R&Js. And one of my earlier business ventures before I got into this type of work was I tried to introduce, and it was an early bodywork thing as well. I tried to introduce aerobics for men into Derby about a number of years ago. Badly misjudged my audience, really. But I thought big, and I hired the biggest disco, thinking that this is bound to work. I put up posters, and because I've been trained in this sort of stuff. Romeos and Juliets. Romeos was the bigger part of the bigger disco. And the big day dawned, and I've been on the radio. I've been interviewed on the radio and posters and everything. 5 people turned up. 3 were my mates. And I remember sort of, the speakers are so loud that just having the speakers on drowned out what I was saying. So I was on this stage, and 5 people were down here doing some aerobics. So anyway, there's rather more people than people here. So I'm here to discuss embodied leadership and what that means. I'm conscious that the work we did this morning, we explored leading and following in coaching, and we explored how we can really connect with people. All those things are really central to this. And there was a massive amount of goodwill in the room as well. And I suppose, and to some extent, I'm going to put a slight damper on that and recognize that out there, things are really tough. Lots of leaders, I think, are struggling. I'm both a coach, I teach coaching, I teach somatic cognitive work, I use it in my work, and I use it with groups as well. And I was with a group the other day. I mentor a group of senior financial leaders from various FTSE 100 and so companies. And one of these companies has recently lost its chief exec, and I was mentoring one down from the board, who was one of these people who's representing this company. And she was saying how that the board have sort of gone mad. They're panicking. And because they're panicking, they're saying we need interim figures out now because the analysts are saying what's going on. You can't get them out now. It takes you a week to get figures in a global company, at minimum, for anyone who's involved in that, and that makes sense anyway, doesn't it? And he said, and this woman I was speaking with, who I'd worked with, said that they are so scared. The FD, for example, the financial director, he's fearful and won't talk to the analysts. Now, if anyone's involved with any company, you recognise just how bad that is at the moment. So what he's done is he's sent in the investor relation chap, who's new to the company. Anyway, this is costing them millions. The fact that people in senior leadership positions seem at times unable to manage themselves in these situations is causing a lot of pain and actually costing companies, a lot of money. And so I think it's worth, just setting the scene on this, that actually we're going to look at, therefore, some of the skills that leaders need, and I want to set that context. And then we'll look at some of the theory behind this work, and just in another room, one of my colleagues is doing some neuroscience around this as well. What's really exciting about the neuroscience work is it's increasingly, supporting the things we knew intuitively in the bodywork world as well, and in the Gestalt world. And then we'll do some exercises as well. So there is a piece, I was invited to also to give some theory. So we won't be up dancing too soon, and then we'll do some exercises. So a couple of sayings here that I think, to some extent speak to me about this space. So, many leaders, there's a journey that so many leaders go on. And, so talking about the financial world, they might be in accountancy, so they do accountancy 101 and 202, 303. Then they end up as partners in firms, or they become more senior. And then they're often taken to one side and said things like, well, your gravitas isn't all it could be. And they're going, where was gravitas in accountancy 202? Or your presence? Your impact. They don't do impact on a spreadsheet in quite the same way. And what leaders often don't, when they move into senior positions, often don't realize that, the old Zulu saying says it so powerfully there. I cannot hear your words for the thunder of your actions. So we really need to support leaders in how they come across, partly because the moment they turn up in a room, if they're in a particular state and they're not aware of that state, the effect on that room and the trickle down to the company can be phenomenal. This is one of my favorite sayings as well by Einstein, which is that problems created by one level of thinking cannot be solved by continuing to go around the same level of thinking. So how do you get to that high level of thinking? We'll explore that. I like this line from Jung as well. People who are not adapted to nature, they're my italics to be fair, their nature, are of course neurotic, for they're not adapted to reality. I think sometimes as people get tenser and tenser, what tends to happen is we get more abstracted from our felt experience. We engage with maps of what's going on, like spreadsheets and surveys, rather than what's actually is going on. And so they get disconnected, and so the interventions they make in their organizations and with their people often aren't as thought through as they could be. And then the old Book of Wisdom, the Tao Te Ching, which is about the rigid person is a disciple of death, the soft, supple, and delicate are lovers of life. Bit harsh. A little harsh maybe, so don't over-connect to that. But I think one thing is, so often people in leadership positions, and this is generalization, they often seem to mistake rigidity and aggression for the responsible use of power. If you understand what I mean by that. So, I need to be tougher now, and what that means is I need to sort of get more rigid, and there are consequences to that, both for them and their organization. Think about the thunder of their actions. So as we go through, therefore, we're going to explore this from a somatic cognitive perspective, which I'll come to in a second. What I would like to do is let's remind ourselves we all have bodies here. So this is an intellectual piece, and people like the theory and want the theory as well. But let's really start to pay attention to our bodies as well, and we'll do that in greater detail as we go along. So just make sure that, take responsibility. I mean, every time I run these sessions, I invite people, make sure you're in your bodies. How's your breathing? Is there are your shoulders slightly higher than you'd like them to be? Is there a sort of frantic tapping going on that's trying to tell you something? And regularly. And can we just contract around this? I assume it's okay for everyone, because you're here, I'm imagining, that we give feedback around each other's bodies. Is that okay? Otherwise it gets tough, really, to do this type of work, if we have challenges with that. So let's just summarize the context that I think this is all happening in. And the fact that I think so much leadership development work is increasingly not fit for purpose. I'm going to make some bold statements at the moment. Because the people I described earlier on who are panicking, as are lots of people in organizations, have been on leadership development courses. They've done the MBAs and the further work at these colleges. And yet somehow what's happened is that abstract information or the intellectual information, when push comes to shove around the real leadership challenges, they find it really hard to respond resourcefully. So if we just look at some of what I believe are the challenges facing leaders today, and ask yourself, how many of those are intellectual challenges? There's uncertainty. How do you face uncertainty in the world? Low morale, frantic pace of change. You can read those. I think the other one is data overload, impossible to process it all. Often in response to challenges, what we do, because we're a highly intellectualized society, is say, let's give them more data. People are drowning in data. An intellectual, that's back to the Einstein thought, that having the same sort of thinking perhaps isn't going to solve some of the challenges that people face. And we expect them to do our modern leader to somehow drive and motivate people when things are really tough. So, therefore, these are some of the skills that we seem to ask of our leaders. I've mentioned some of these. Does everyone relate to this? And would you agree with this so far? Does this make sense? Technical skills, in my experience with senior leaders, are taken as read. You're expected to have the technical ability. You're expected to be able to engage strategically in terms of the models around and to be able to use spreadsheets and the like. But these are the sorts of things we're looking for. Authenticity, we said earlier on. What on earth is authenticity? How does somebody do authenticity? Resilience. Some people and organizations are breaking down out there. How do we support, as coaches and leaders, our people to be resilient? Calmness under pressure. I've seen some leaders become the problem because they start to panic. So how do we give people access when they are hooked or triggered by the circumstances around them? Access to their calm. There are some things that are mutually exclusive here. And John, earlier on in his session, which was great, he talked about being grounded, but also being able to take action. Being centered. How can you be grounded, but be decisive? Because leaders really need to be decisive now. However, if they rigidify with that, and I'm doing that with my body, then actually that can cause more problems than it can solve. A much underused word in leadership development programs, but courage. They have to put their brave pants on. I often say, so, really sort of take a big, deep breath and take positive action and decisive steps. However, they mustn't endanger the company. So that's very confusing as an idea. Many people have got there as leaders because they had a particular style, and quite an egotistical style, quite a charismatic leadership style when they get to a senior level in organizations. And yet increasingly, the style that's required of leaders is collaborative leadership, this notion of collaborative endeavor. How can we motivate people, bring them with us? As John's comment earlier on was, invite people in, make it compelling. I also like the definition of leadership, which is, creating a world to which others want to belong. Now, right now, the world's a bit tough for people, so it's very hard to do that when actually there might be another 10,000 layoffs or whatever. Big challenges, these. And while this is all going on, with all this pressure, an ability to pay attention to the bigger picture and notice what's happening. When leaders become adrenalized, when we become sort of tense, what tends to happen to our focus? We tend to get too tense. Any suggestions? Narrows, absolutely. Did somebody say decreases? Freeze, and it freezes, well, absolutely. You might be, if it could be so tough, it could be fight, flight, or freeze. Yes, most certainly. But it tends to narrow. There's a lot of work in a lot of discussion in organizations, isn't there, about focus, relentless focus. And I'm saying leaders don't need to focus. That's a challenging pushback, by the way. Sometimes they do need to focus. But they need also to see the bigger picture, because there's a huge threat coming in here, and another one here. So actually a leadership skill is to be able to focus, sit back, focus, see the bigger picture as well. All these, I'd suggest, are therefore not just intellectual skills. Somatic cognitive skills, and let me just describe what I mean by this. So somatic, therefore, means the body and all its processes. So its drives, its tensions, its muscle tension, and the brain as well. The bones, the organs, emotions, so it's all our bodily processes. And as I think Sue alluded to earlier on, Sue said that, we are often taught to be cut off here somehow, and this is just a vehicle to take me to my next seminar. Or, then I sit down and the vehicle sits there. And sometimes it breaks down. That's a pain. I have to sort of get the vehicle fixed. And so somatic recognizes that actually we have processes that are more than just intellectual processes. And cognitive, well, to be frank, cognitive is part of somatic. However, some somatic work is very, very sparse on the words. It is just people just manipulate bodies or make observations about body and energy. The work we do as coaches, I think, is highly cognitive, and that's great. We use a lot of words, but the aim, therefore, is to ground your cognitive experiences in the body of the soma. What does that mean to that person in his somatic experience? So somatic cognitive coaching and development. And increasingly, this work is cropping up in leadership development programs. I'm running about 5 at the moment, and I turn up and I do sort of somatic cognitive work with leaders in this way. So let's just say, just go through a bit more of the theory, and then we'll move on to practice some of this stuff. Some of the presuppositions. Mind and body is a system. Therefore, if you get, and there's so much data around this now that this, I think, is a given. It's very hard to get a shift in the mind without somehow there being a shift elsewhere in the body, and vice versa. So our soma, or the other thing, and our body notices everything that's going on. The data is coming into us all the time. The intellectual mind only picks up a tiny amount of that, and that's the challenge. Also, the more tense you get, the less data you're picking up. So just in terms of actually paying attention to it, so feelings in the room, emotions, a sense of the energy of their company, we need to invite leaders to pay attention to their somatic experience more. In fact, the third the bottom to last paragraph there, this is fascinating, that actually, in many ways, our body, our soma, our body mind, is making the decisions for us. We then start to act, and our intellect then sort of post-rationalizes that. Oh, I meant to go here. You know when you were a kid and you were on a double-decker bus, and you might have sat at the front on a double-decker bus, thinking you were driving the bus. And then the bus would swing this way, and you go, oh, I meant to go there. But you clearly weren't driving the bus. And some people, therefore, get hooked. Many leaders get hooked by their automatic responses in their body to the situation, which intellectually they try and post-rationalize. In fact, it's our emotions and our somatic set that guide where our intellect works, has been demonstrated. So, depending on our somatic state, how we are in our bodies and our emotions, we can expand or contract our intellect and our intellectual capacity. Another challenge here, leader is somatic transmitter. So we said that earlier on. A leader, if he's in a particular state, he's transmitting all the time. People are, and I often talk about the leadership telescope. So, people who work low down the organization, they look up at leaders, and leaders are writ large. So a throwaway comment by a leader, or a particular response, that's an angry response in a meeting, and everyone gets the message. The whole organization can get the message. And also, somatic receiver. So as well as that, leaders are part of the organization. And the problem with that is because we're all porous in that respect. We all pick up, it was fascinating this morning in John's work, how we all, as a group, we picked up one another's energy, and we had this wonderful flowing experience, most of us. And so because we're just picking up one another's, the energy of the group. And equally, that happens to leaders as well. And the leadership challenge, actually, is they have to be of the organization, but how can they sit sufficiently distant and be different so they're able to see the way forward? Because if they are part of the group think, then they can be part of the problem. Okay. So, the more we connect leaders with their somatic experience, the more likely they are to respond appropriately to what's going on. So, a couple of things that we'll pay attention to in terms of working bodily with leaders. These are the number of the areas that we attend to somatically and cognitively. So clearly not just the words, but also things like breathing rate. It's often said that breathing is the grand highway to the soma. So often, if we're hooked and out of kilter, then our breathing will come up here, and we'll be sort of denuded, and actually paying attention to a client's breathing can be really useful and drawing it to their attention. We'll pay attention to lots of things. In fact, I'll leave that up there. I'll come back to them in a session later on. Posture, movement, emotions as part of emotional intelligence is part of this work as well. So let's practice. Let's start to have an experience of this then first. And I think what I first like to do is, now the energy's changed a bit, is just have a sense of what it's like when we do what many leaders do, which is we have if we start to believe that power is a rigid thing. So could you all put your pens and papers down now, please, for me? And if you'll stand up and partner up. Okay. And so there are lots of different ways of, semantic descriptions of leadership and leadership styles. But I just want to have a felt experience of what happens when, like many of the leaders you might work with, we start to over-rigidify. So what I'd like you to do then is just start to, imagine some of the leaders you might have worked with who come across as quite rigid. Okay, have you got a sense of that? Has anyone not worked with quite a rigid leader? If so, well done. Where do you work? And I'd like you to just have a sense that, so let's start to embody that. So start to just slightly tense, slightly, notice your breathing. Notice what you do with your shoulders. The deal when we get into that sort of power dynamic is it's a battle, actually, and it's probably very black and white. And from that set, I want you to turn to your partner and give them a compliment. Staying in that set. And stop, and stop, and stop. What was your experience of attempting to give a compliment to your colleagues from that set?
Came out as very grudging.
Very grudging. Yeah.
I don't want to admit it, but...
Okay, yeah. Gritted teeth. Okay, sorry? Pardon? Official. Was it an official compliment? Very, okay. And how did it land on the person you were giving it to? Pardon? Hard to receive. Yeah. Say some more about hard to receive. So it's hard to receive a compliment. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, just a lot went on in that as well. Just debrief that again. So to get back to the set. So some people do walk around like this quite a bit. Have you got a partner? Oh, there's some. Oh. Pardon? Yeah. Okay. So again, this isn't an intellectual exercise. Let's start to do this again. So again, and then. And just engage with your partner and just notice the energy between you. And again, give each other a compliment or appreciation. You're both rigids. Just stay on the rigids. Okay, guys, let's stop. So again, noticing what's going on in that space. What happens? Tell me a bit about your focus and the feelings and your engage. What was it like to engage with one another? And also what's happening in your body? So, what sort of thoughts and pardon? It's very superficial. So the compliment's superficial.
But also the connection here.
It's a and I notice you're doing it here, aren't you? Absolutely, yes.
I actually couldn't think of something, and I actually could give you 10 compliments.
Okay, you couldn't think, and very distracting, absolutely. Actually, you've done better than many groups, because I think you've had a really funky time and you've been embracing, and it's tango that's getting in the way, really. There's some groups that I work with, and it's not on their radar. It's just not on their radar. They're unable to think of a compliment, because the first thing that goes, or significantly, when you're rigid, is your empathy, isn't it? Your natural empathy, because you become, Reich talked about, Wilhelm Reich, one of the founders, one of the influences of this work, talked about armoring, and people after a period of time are armored. If you're overly rigid, then your empathy goes. Yeah, okay. What else did you notice about this time?
We both, in our different turns, when we were receiving, felt like there was a kind of a butt, and we had to get ready because there was going to be some kind of dagger, under the cloak any second now.
Absolutely. So an expectation, because the thunder of the actions is speaking louder than the words, and the actions suggest they're going to hit you. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
Even though we know each other, we stuck to shallow surface stuff.
Yeah.
Appearance, clothes, not experience of working together for 12, 13 years.
Wow.
But
yeah.
Your hair looks nice.
Yeah.
Let's keep it at that level.
Let's keep it at that level.
Well, we don't want to go down.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so-
noticed that even though I was all tense in my body, it was so up here, the energy, that I didn't even notice my body.
No. So after a while, if you're doing this, so we're accelerating this, but after a while, you're not even aware of this. You're not aware you're coming across in that way. And what you do is you look at a colleague and say, I have nothing good to say about him. which is quite shocking, really, isn't it? As a leader, you then create an environment in which that's happening. Have people seen these environments? Experienced these environments? You know, this is an embodied challenge, and we owe it to our clients to have them disorganize this. Okay, good. And if you're working with this as a coach, this is only a short session, but I mean, going back to somatic cognitive work, you can work with the impact it has on you, and also starting to, we use a term called disorganize that somatic set of rigid. So, invite them to notice the tension in their shoulders maybe, and elsewhere, their breathing. Where did you find the tension as you were doing this in yourself? In the shoulders, yeah. There was some of it, okay, yeah. I saw someone going, gosh, that's really tiring. Yeah. Did anyone find their shoulders, and probably even still, a couple of inches higher? You would be? Okay.
Very, very tight. Here down was just really tight.
Yeah. So you can't, all the great stuff we did this morning with John around centering, you can't center from there. You're not in touch with the ground from there. You're not in touch with your nature, essential nature. And yet, so many senior leaders at teams seem to operate from this level, would be my suggestion. Okay, so should we disorganize that now? It's a bit, yes, okay. Before we do, you could at some point, and if we have time, we might think about that, but, there is an embodiment of all of those, and there is a lot of research and data behind all of those and thinking around that. So the charismatic leader, that sounds quite cool, doesn't it? That's a particular side, this expanded leader, but actually that has its downsides as well, because there's what is that sort of energy striving for? What's the internal message that might be the shadow side to that? A fear of insignificance, and also if you've got people who are quieter and introverted, where are they in this? Though it can be very useful at times to be charismatic.
One question, if I'm talking with a rigid person, and I would like really to change this conversation at this level to more collaborative. What could I do?
That's a very big, very big question, that. Come on my course. Then after that, we do further. No, I'm working currently, so just to take the shift from rigid and charismatic to collaborative is a very common one. I work with a lot of teams like that at the moment. That's a lot of the requests I'm getting. And I'm working with an international organization. In there, they have Texans, charismatic Texan oil people. How you doing, Nick? They speak like this. It's great, actually. It's like Dallas. They, hi, y'all. Anything with one syllable is stretched to 2 or 3, I've noticed. In there's Norwegians, there are Brazilians, there are people from Singapore and what have you. And they got where they got by being charismatic, a bit rigid, quite hard, but that sort of thing. And they can't work together. Is it any wonder? The Norwegians and the Texans, and so a lot of that work's been done. Now, a big part is pay attention to your environment. One thing, get rid of the table. I would suggest, here's a shorthand, get rid of all the tables and chairs, put them in a big circle. That alone will change stuff. My clients, when I work with them, they say, you don't like tables, do you? Not a fan of tables. So get, out behind a desk. We are changing their bodies. So first session, we didn't use that language, but the second session, they realized, we talked about what's the impact, Barb, when you come up and speak to this person in this way. And we're starting to invite them to notice where they're feeling that. And then actually, I'm going to take you through an exercise which I directly took them through subsequently, which is to have them notice the stress in their bodies. So you start to guide some of that as well. There's a balance between guiding and following process in this work. So it's a bit like the dance we talked about this morning. Making loads of connections here, John, aren't I? It's good stuff. Okay, so we'd like to sit down again now, and I'll do a piece of work that I'll do in all my sessions, which is as a starting point, therefore, for all of us working somatic cognitively, we have to get into our own body and recognize our own process. We have so many automatic patterns and automatic ways of holding ourselves. And every somatic set, just a bit more of the theory in some ways, every somatic set will be, there'll be a whole series of muscle contractions, postural elements, and focus of the eye, where do you focus, that supports the somatic set. So if I'm sometimes the danger is I can be in focused client mode, coach mode. Shouldn't be like this, but I can be. We can over-focus, and my whole body can support that. And so it's useful to look about where we're holding tensions in our somatic set and to come back to really being grounded and embodied ourselves. So I'll take you through a very simple version of something I sometimes do, take a bit longer on, but which is about really coming home to your body. Frankly, there are some people I recognise around the room, many I recognise, and some people who are new to this work. And I have this challenge always saying, we want something different, Nick, from the other day. and so there'll be different stuff as well. This is a core part of the work you do as a somatic cognitive coach, is you have got to come home to your body. Otherwise, what are you weaving into the system of your client's body if you're coming from an automatic pattern? So if we sit grounded and supported on our seat.
Sorry, Nick, can I just request that we all move the chairs out a bit?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yes. Great, Adam. Yes, if you can all push your chairs back a foot or so in imperial units? Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm on camera and my shirt's hanging out. No one told me, did they? Go on. It's part of my somatic set, yes, my dressing set. Okay. So I'd like you just to come back to yourself, come back to your body, and bear in mind, I did this with Texan oil men and with Norwegian oil people and Singapore and Brazilians. So if you built rapport and you have the courage, this is very powerful work and acceptable. And notice your breathing. And I'm going to guide you through a process that probably draws your attention to more parts of your body than perhaps you've had experience before, though I imagine many of you have done something similar. I'll base this on a Tai Chi exercise, which I think works wonderfully well with the notion of positive Chi. So I'd like you to close your eyes and bring to mind a pleasurable thought, pleasurable memory. You have one from this morning probably, and I'm sure you have many others. Something that brings a slight smile to your face. And imagine as you're having that there is tingling energy associated with that within your mind. There might be images or sensations, sounds, whatever you want to do. But imagine that there is tingling energy in your brain, slight smile on your face. And we're going to direct that positive chi to various parts of our body in a moment. And we're going to do that by, I'd like to put your tongue, the tip of your tongue, to the roof of your mouth, as if to transmit the energy. First, we're going to send some of that positive healing chi to our lungs. So imagine breathing that positive chi in to our lungs, as if you're sending a big thank you and appreciation to your lungs. Breathe that in. Imagine it going all the way to the end of the alveoli, the air-blood interface. It gives you your energy and life, spirit during the day. Notice how you can expand your lungs. And then I'd like you to send some of that positive chi to your heart. Really have a sense of your heart in your body. They have found neuronal networks in the heart. The heart thinks. It thinks and influences the brain. So it's way more than just a pump. So imagine sending positive chi to your heart. See if you can notice your heartbeat. And let's send some positive chi down now the gut, the transformation system. We put food in, and amazingly we develop our bodies and have energy. So imagine sending positive chi down our gut, from the small intestines. Really have a sense, if you can, of where that is in your body and how that flows through your body. We have lots of organs in our body, and often we pay so scant attention to them. Sometimes we just develop the muscles, for example, but we are far more than that. So I'm going to invite you to send positive chi to some organs. It doesn't matter if you know where they are or not. The idea that they're there, and they clearly are, will be enough. So your liver is slightly to the right, behind your lungs, lower down. Very big organ to do with cleaning and generating key hormones and other substances. Imagine sending positive chi to your liver. Have a sense of your liver in your body. On the other side is your spleen. Imagine sending positive healing chi to your spleen. Behind those are your kidneys. See if you have a sensation of your kidneys. Send positive healing chi to your kidneys. And now allow that positive chi to flow out through your bodies and your bones. Notice your bone structure, your skeleton. It's amazing support. We all have support. It's called our body. And sometimes we forget that support. Our skin, our muscles, having a sense of the integrity of your whole. And finally, down through your legs and to the connection to your ground, the ground that supports you. Really enjoy that sense of you being in your body, grounded, centered, in touch with your, this is, I would suggest, presence, your presence to yourself. And in your own time, but very gently and gracefully, just open your eyes and hold on to that sense. So often we give ourselves away very quickly in social exchanges or some sort of somatic pattern that's an automatic pattern. Really hold on to that sense of you being with yourself and in your body. And slowly open your eyes. Have 90% of the attention on yourself, maybe just 10% on me and people around you. I'm keen to hear some people's experiences as they scan down, as you sent the positive chi. What was your experience of that, and what's your experience now?
Some parts of me were aching before, but now they're not.
Ah. Great. Wow, a gyroscopic pendulum move in your whole body.
Yeah.
Do you notice where you feel that? More, top half. Okay.
But it's like a deep relax. It's like a slightly out of body.
Okay. Anyone else? Did they notice any tensions or sensations that then discharged or released?
I noticed quite a vibration in my body. Energy.
There are pulsations. There are all sorts of cycles and pulsations going in the body all the time. And I think two of you have spoken about that and to that. So being aware of the pulsations in your body. Clearly there is a heart pulsation, and there are others as well. We vibrate and pulsate. We sometimes forget we pulsate. We get out there and we spend too much time out there and we forget to pulsate back sometimes to ourselves and recharge. Okay. Some people speak of occasionally, and I do, every time I do this, and I do it quite a bit, not surprisingly, I find some tension somewhere. I go, oh, why am I holding that? Let's let that go. So had I not noticed that, I'd have been carrying that. It's doing a bit of that. It's doing a bit of the rigidifying for no apparent reason. Some historical reason that wasn't useful here necessarily. Doesn't mean we collapse, by the way. We all have form, and we stand clearly, but and we sit and have form. but we can be supported by our muscular structure, our skeletons, without having to overly rigidify. So let's gently stand now and just have a sense of standing in that space as well. Can I ask, what's your thinking like at this stage? What's your perspective? You know, how are you experiencing your thinking, your focus? Relaxed? Yeah. What was the first word you said? Calm. Calm. Okay.
Very open.
Very open. So you're seeing more.
Yeah, open to receive.
Open to receive. Okay. Yeah. Expansive. Yeah. More space. Probably a very resourceful state, this, from which to move and do John's dance, to see what's happening in the wider system. It's amazing how, you know, as we engage with the world, that can diminish and we can start to lose ourselves. So let's just finally have this sense of, so standing in that state as well. Breathing, I'm imagining, is more likely to be lower down now. Is that right? So at the moment, we don't have to be on guard, we don't have to be armoured. I did this work with this group, answering your question to some extent, and many people you work with, in many extents, we're all fellow travellers. You do similar work. There are some people you'll do this work with, and they'll go, wow. I had no idea that because I thought I was relaxed. I'm relaxed. Calm down. I am calm. And they thought, and the more they do this work, they realize, oh. And the summary at the end of 4 days in Paris with this team was, many of them, there were lots of business things that came over, but they said, to breathe in my belly, to come back to that, because it was so good, and actually I see more. Having done this work, by the way, when we engaged at one of the challenges, or to be collaborative, it was so much easier. The rigidity had gone, and draw their attention to, so how that happens. Okay, good. The final piece would be, if you were in a leadership space, might well be, notice that the moment you say leadership, sometimes people go, whoa, and you thrust the chest forward, and just, watch that desire to do that. I noticed it myself, come on then. So grounded, available, you see the wider picture. From this space, I can be inviting in of other people. I can also be clear if need be. Here's a boundary, without rigidifying. I find out there's also this notion of centering and grounding. Many of you are familiar with skying. People heard the term skying, which is this sense as well that actually if you ground and as a leader have this sense of connecting out there as well. So, and then you can think about, you have the leadership team here. Who else do we need to pay attention to? Who else is around who we represent and need to honour? So the challenge is that this is a very resourceful state and we're in a very safe space here, but there are dragons and sharks out there. We get knocked off balance. We get hooked by things. I was talking to a client of mine the other day, and he said, in a management meeting, he said, this guy winds me up something chronic. And he showed me. Didn't know he showed me, but he showed me. And so he'd been hooked, he'd been knocked off balance. And he said, the problem is then, he said something, and I say, and I try and use the words, which are good idea. Thank you for your contribution. Yes. And there's tense. And actually, they start to have problems. So the deep work there is not learning a line which is a collaborative line, it's how do I disorganize that? And that's the work that we're doing with that client. So the balance is that when we get knocked off balance, how can we restore ourselves? And we're going to explore now recovery, in somatic cognitive terms, recovery and discharge. How do we recover ourselves? And discharge often applies to things where over a period of time, if you haven't recovered for a while, you may well have tensions and your clients they need to be discharged. And sometimes we've held on to tensions for 20, 30, 40 years. So, that can be more careful work. But it's very powerful work to do. So coming back to balance. And there were a variety of ways I was going to do this, but I think we'll do it in this way, actually, having had an experience of John's thing as well. So, and I call this exercise rolling with the blows. Has anyone done rolling with the blows with me? Good. So it's new to lots of people who have done work with. Excellent.
Rolling.
Rolling with the blows.
The blow.
So, you know, in martial arts terms, you know, if you're not one way, you have to come back to balance. Because if you rigidify, and we can demonstrate this, but I imagine you're familiar with this. If you know, I can look big and strong here, but I'm very easy to knock over, push over. The thing to do is be grounded, my feet here, and you know, and be able to roll with it and come back to a sense of balance and centeredness. So I'd like a volunteer, please, to demonstrate this. And we'll go into some more small groups and we'll practice this in a second. So groups of maybe, how many hours are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 7, 27, which easily divides by 9. Yes, thank you. Or 3, indeed, yes. I think we'll have, actually, 9's a bit big, so we'll have 6, 12, 18, 24, 4 groups, and some will be bigger than 6. Got that? I'm empowering the group now. But I'll demonstrate what I'd like to have happen, please. So can I have yes, a volunteer. Excellent, thank you very much. You'd like to come forward? Thank you very much. Big hand, actually, because you have no idea what we're going to do you? I mean, you can be
I'm a risk taker.
Yes, I like that. I noticed a stance you've adopted straight away.
What's he going to do?
Come on, what's he going to do? Okay, I would like for you to have that granularity. If we can build that granularity, so wasn't that lovely the way you came up and said, yeah, I'm ready, and I trust you implicitly. Okay, so if you think about the mind-body connection again, if we get knocked off balance physically, we often get knocked off balance mentally as well, and vice versa. And mostly, we're knocked off balance mentally and emotionally by things that happen in our workplace, as are your leaders. So it could be that email, that person. I want you to think about now things that knock you off balance, that you know you get wound up, uptight about, or scared of. You don't want to confront or whatever. You know, we talk about courageous conversations. Actually, that's tricky if you're a bit scared, if you go in there knocked off balance. So, so are there some things that come to mind, like words or thoughts that knock you off balance? It could be someone's name or not. It could be something that you know means something, a word that triggers, or a situation that has a word around it that would be a trigger. That
Do you want me to say it out? Or?
Could you do? Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to face your?
Yeah.
Maybe if I stand here. Yeah. Must. Does that connect with something in particular as well?
Yeah.
Is there a situation?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you think about must, what happens? I must do this. Just run that
Get
in.
a knot here.
You get a knot here.
Yeah.
So immediately, the thought's there. There's a shift in the body. The problem with the systemic nature of this is the knot in the body will then enhance the out of shapeness, if that makes sense. That doesn't help when we hold on to this. The empowering thing about embodied leadership work and somatic cognitive is we recognise. What was your name again, sorry?
Marianne.
It's Marianne. We say to Marianne, so that's interesting, you've done that, Marianne. Whatever the thing out there isn't here, but you've done that to yourself. Isn't that interesting, the things we do to ourselves? And so often we ask ourselves, in a coaching session, you might say, how do you do that? How do you know? We're not going to do that in this way, we're going to do something else. I'd like you 4 people, please. Can you come up, please? Just as well. You've been volunteered. Thank you. Can you come up? So Marianne, can you stand closer to the centre of the room for me? And can you give me some other words? So must is one that knocks you off balance. What's maybe 2 or 3 others?
Enough.
Enough. Look at okay. Are you listening to these words? Must, enough, yeah. Maybe one more. Cancer. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm going to ask them to do in a moment, if this is okay, and I have to check with this with you, is that so even the words themselves have the impact, don't they? Do people notice that? I mean, just if you're working with a client, even the work we're doing, let's really bring bodies back into our frame of reference, to even there, and the stance as well from Marianne as well. Okay, Marianne. So I'd like you to do what you need to do, Marianne, to come back to balance, come back to being resourceful. Sometimes we allow these things to get into us, and then we sort of cook it ourselves under our own skin. And people often say, it's she or he's got under my skin. let's get it out of there and come back to here. Sometimes as well, if there's a degree of rigidity, just suggest or invite you to move, and it's like, yeah. Are you back?
Yeah.
Are you back with us, Marianne?
I'm back.
Excellent. Okay. So Marianne, is it okay to touch you? And push? So we're going to do something which is, and it has echoes of sort of martial arts. It's not like martial arts. Okay. So we're going to link the mind-body connection here really directly. So in martial arts, if I was to knock you, if you're really balanced and be like the willow, if you imagine a knock you, and just let yourself and bounce back. There. From that state, you're really really balanced, and you can bounce back. Keep breathing. Key thing here, by the way, is to keep breathing. Otherwise, you die. There's a serious point there. So many people will catch their breath. If we're shocked, we'll catch our breath, and often we then don't take our breathing lower down. So these shocks to us in our world can come at us from any angle. So I'd like you guys to mill around, and what they're going to do is this. So I'm going to come past and go must. And what happens as I say that and as I touch you, what happens?
I wanted to stiffen.
You want to stiffen? Okay, so do what you need to do if need be. And actually, if you want, you can move around. So if need be, you can move around. So do what you need to do. So must, and then come back to balance. Watch the tension around here as well. Okay, good. Can we carry on? Yeah. Okay. So and at any stage you can say, whoa, and then just come back and just move around and come back here. So we're practicing recovery so that we can respond really well. Okay. Okay. So if we mill around, please, and I'd like you to come in like an assailant. And, as you give Mary a little push, use one of the words as well. So there's a mind-body link. And that's, you can look at them, Marianne, you can look at them in the face as they're coming in. And move around if you want. Okay. Good. And just pause there, Marianne. How's it going?
Okay.
Is it good?
Yeah.
And are you able to restore you?
Yes, I'm back.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. That's it. And as a leader, if you're here, then you're also keeping an eye on the whole. So the thing is, if you're engaging here and there's a challenge from someone here, the danger is you'd be looking here and not seeing the other things coming in as well. Very good. And bring yourself back and just pause there. And take a deep breath. How was that for you, Marianne? What was that like?
It was a little bit disturbing.
Yeah.
But actually quite empowering, actually. Yeah.
So these...
So I feel stronger.
You feel stronger?
Yeah, because there's something about facing, not having to be knocked over.
Not having to be knocked over. Okay. And you're stronger. I noticed initially your tendency was to do this, but
I feel strong and relaxed.
Yeah. Okay. So even now, it's likely your relationship to must, cancer, has shifted.
Yeah.
You have more resources.
Yeah.
That's great. Can I have a big hand for Marianne? Okay, thank you. Well done, guys. Guys that work with them, just check yourself as well. Come back to yourself. You were involved in something quite powerful there. Just make sure that you're... good. Okay, 4 groups of around 6 per group. 6, 12, 18, 24. Yes. And that's what we'll be doing, okay? So it gives you a chance to... Actually, no, we'll have more groups than that. We'll have... give more people more chance. We'll have 5 groups. What's that then? 5 or 6. Pardon? 5 or 6 in a group, thank you, 5 groups, and it gives you a chance to, so you've got people milling around. So just go through that again, and Barman's come and asked me, the person who goes first as the leader, or if you want, or coach, but who has to deal with these 1,000 natural shocks that we tend to have to deal with, and recover as we go along. You go first, and you first think about things that currently make you do this. And I think we all can relate to that, can't we? You think of an issue that you're dealing with, or a person or a situation, you go, and straight away there's the rigidity that goes with that. and give some people trigger words. Give your colleagues trigger words. And when you're ready, reenact this, so that you say the word and you feel the physical response as well, and then you have an ability to come back to balance and relax. At any stage, you can say, whoa, I'll just take a pause now, thank you, if need be. Everyone clear?
Should we have someone in the role of coach whose job it is to scan and take care of both the group but particularly the individual?
Nice idea. Okay, great. So each person, yeah, as I did. Yeah. Okay, great. So in each group, let's
Rotate as well.
and that can rotate. Yeah, each time. So someone is the role of coach, just keeping an eye on and just checking. The invitation is to keep breathing, and to watch and to notice, what's rigidifying. Keep breathing. Come back to that. Okay. And also to scan, to look as somebody's coming towards you. Look it in the face. Look them in the face. So you engage with that person. Okay. Sometimes you can step out of the way, by the way. That's jiu-jitsu, isn't it? You see this thing coming, you go, ha-ha. And then trip them up. No, don't. Not that. That was a joke. That must be. Okay, so it's getting more complex now, but I think we can hold on to it. 5 groups of 5 or 6, 1 coach each time, and just have a go and really have that sense of coming back to balance and recovery so that we can rapidly run. I use the term clean system. We get back to running a clean system, not a rigid, out of kilter system. Yeah. Off you go then. Find yourselves, 5, 6 people. If need be, guys, take yourself to some spare room. There's a space over there, there's a space over there. Great. Right. We'll call the role of the person being knocked around leader. So they're the leader first, and then decide who's going to be coach. So off you go. Just give it a go. A few minutes per person, that's all. Keep breathing. Remember the breathing, guys. Remember as well to look at the bigger picture as well, as well as the person who's coming in. Keep checking in. Okay, can we stop that one and just have a chat? Debrief it, please. Debrief with the person who was the leader. Okay, and when you're ready, next person, please. Next person. Make sure you're not rigidifying. Get back into your bodies. Breathing deeply with it.
Feedback, oh my God.
You're already gone.
I love that, Sue. That was lovely. That was lovely. You can have, by the way, you can have some fun with it. You can dip out the way. My suggestion would be look as something to engage with. Look them in the face. Look it in the face. So you see, you deal with it head on, and keep breathing. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
To get someone out of the comfort zone.
Pardon?
Are we having a discussion?
Yeah, if you've done another one, yes. Okay, stop, guys, please, and have a debrief of that one. And one last go, guys, so that another person has a chance to have a go. Okay, can we have one last go, and then we'll draw that to a close. Look at the things that are, look at the person in the eye. Yes, okay, okay. And keep breathing as you do that, yeah. You can let it just, you can step out the way, you can roll back. Keep. Okay, look them in the face, and occasionally look at the whole group as well. That's the leadership challenge. Look them in the face. Look at the bigger group. Okay, and debrief the last one for 2 minutes and then we'll come back in. So just discuss in your groups the last one. Okay, everybody, could you come back to the circle, please? Okay, can we please sit? Can we come back to the seat? We have to move on. Thoughts, responses, experiences, particularly as you now think about some of those things that were the things that knocked you off balance. What was your experience of doing that?
Something in our voice, something that's in my mind, which is doing that from a position where you've had the relaxation. It's been a wonderful experience. But I know that when I get hooked into my stuff, I'm going spinning around in my stuff, whatever that is, and I just can't find a way out. And something like that is an exercise that culminated in that. So could you give me some phone numbers or something? Because where does one go to break out of that cycle and then have that experience and then sort that out?
Yeah.
It felt very good, but hard to recreate, I suppose.
Okay. What I would be intrigued by is next time you encounter the stimuli that you brought there, simply, it's likely that you'll be more aware of yourself. That's one thing. So things may already have changed. That's a challenge, isn't it? When you're hooked in that way, how do we do that? A very common thing for me is breathing, actually. The starting point often is, my breathing will be up here, and a whole series of things will then happen as a result of that, probably. So if I just take my breathing back, and to learn what is the first thing that might trigger that. If we unravel that, what is it? Is it the look of someone? And in me, what is it that starts that process? So that just comes with more and more awareness, I think, more practice. But you're right, it's easy to do it there. You can't just phone your mates. Can you say, can you come and push me around, please, for a bit? I'm having a tough time. But yeah, pay attention to, you know, next time you're in that state, be curious. It's a very useful thing, curiosity, actually.
I think for me that's part of what happens in coaching. It's creating a space where you can let go of the hooks and
Yeah.
examine and so on.
Yeah.
And that's what good friends do as well. Oh, sorry.
It's just for the camera purposes.
Finish now.
Oh, okay.
No, I think that's finished.
Right, it's a great point, though. Yeah, how do I do it? Yes, Sue, question.
I had an experience where one of our group wasn't ready to take part in the experiment. And it just reminded me how often when you do this work that you do have people who aren't, and it's maybe people might want to think about how would you handle that.
With people who don't want to do that type of work? or-
Yeah. Where you've got a group where some are and then there's some that don't want to.
Yeah, okay. Any thoughts about that?
Well, I always say, look, I wouldn't want you to do anything that you're completely uncomfortable with, and your experience will be your experience and it'll be perfect for you. So give them permission to just not do the full thing if they don't want to, or do if they want to.
Okay.
Don't know what you would say.
One response I had was the response to the term comfortable. You know, sometimes with this work, you're on the edge of their comfort.
Yeah,
and
you
I wouldn't,
are, that's
you know,
true.
this notion about, well, let's just stay comfortable.
Yeah,
You know, in coaching, so you can do a lot more in a coaching session, and like, you know, I've worked with people in that way because the experience, the comments from people like blows actually. So
Yeah.
to physicalize that and then come back is really useful. So I'd watch that, but in a group, yes, I think that's, you're right. It's a balance there, isn't it? Between trust me, this is fine, and you know, do I feel safe enough? Yeah.
Be aware of what's beyond what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. One last comment, if anyone's got an observational thing. Yes. Can I?
I didn't actually.
Oh.
Sorry. I thought you had to.
The thing that struck me when I was the person being abused was, and it only struck me when you mentioned the word curious. I found myself being fascinated by what was happening and noticing, rather than judging myself for having a particular response or what I should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And I sense that comes from that preparation work we did, in that the chatter's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in answer to the lady's suggestion over there, or question, one of the ways that I have worked with this kind of thing on me is when I go into the shower, is I make sure I notice what it feels like for the water to hit me on the back. I'm measuring at the moment the weight of my body on my bum on the seat. And it's just practice. It becomes second nature. And maybe that's work you can give people before you do the challenging stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great comment. And I use a great line there, which is, it takes practice. You know, to redo and shift somatic set, it takes practice. That's a very good. And in fact, you know, in many things like martial arts or dance, it's practice, isn't it? So practice. Yeah.
To an easy practice. Otherwise, it feels like you're trying to give up smoking. It's really hard. But if you do a little bit at a time, it becomes second nature.
Practice. And so next time you encounter, you know, some of these situations, be curious about, it's a very empowering response that, I'm knocked off balance. I'm annoyed by this person. Would be a very empowering way, perhaps, of engaging with something, and that sense of coming back to balance. So the final slide up there says, there was a taster here of ways we can work with our clients, with leaders particularly, to support them in doing some of this stuff, to make a stand without being rigid, to be flexible, but also to be able to confront, you know, I regularly say, look it in the face, that the person that's coming. Sometimes we disconnect by closing our eyes, and that can build our fear and fantasy. So sometimes, you know, seeing the reality is often far less scary than our own thoughts about that as well. And I think our leaders really need this work, by the way. So I think in terms of a competitive edge, and in terms of what we do with as coaches, let's bring our leaders back home to their bodies and start to bring this into our field. Okay.
I just want to ask,
things like, I was just going to ask, are there things like Pilates or Jiu-Jitsu that are useful in building this capacity, this awareness?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
Any ones in particular?
I think they all are. The Alexander technique and Pilates, I think dance, all of these things. I mean, clearly, you may not do all of this in your coaching session, but as a suggestion, yeah.
My experience of that is it's great for your body, but they don't usually connect it to the emotion. And I think that's what this work is doing, is collecting your thoughts into your body rather than just the body for its own sake. So I think it's half the way.
Yeah.
And there's something more that we're dealing with here, is my experience.
And that's recognising the cognitive component with the somatic. So there has been, at times there is this split, and this hopefully brings it together. Conscious of time, guys, so thank you very much. I wish you all the best with your work. And, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nick. I'm going to be more body conscious, I think, in a good way.
Yeah.
And we'll be back here at 1:30.